Welcome to Generations at Work, where our goal is to build bridges and not walls between the different generations at work. Today, we have a special guest, Jeff Hancher, as we explore feedback in intergenerational work environments. I'm your host, Susan Davis, and with us today, your generational expert, Dr. Tim Elmore, leadership expert and author of over 35 books. And again, we have another special guest with us today, and that is Jeff Hancher. Jeff, we welcome you. And Tim, I want you to introduce Jeff today as our special guest and bring up this topic of feedback in the intergenerational work environment.
Yeah, well, Susan, you and I both have gone back and forth on this topic. It's just one of the most pronounced different categories at work.
Yes.
How a boomer maybe responds to feedback and how they expect it. Maybe an Xer, that millennial. Gen Z are the new kids on the block. We've been describing them over the last few podcasts. But Jeff, I'm thrilled that you're with us because you and I have gotten to know each other over the last couple of years. And you kind of live and breathe this topic. It's not all that you do, but your book, Firm Feedback, I would love if you'll just be willing to hit some softballs here. We want to talk to you about this idea of feedback. So let me jump right in. First of all, Jeff, there's a whole bunch of books, leadership books that are written. Why did you choose this one, and how does it fit into this multi-generational category?
Well, first, thanks for having me, and thank you to the listener. If you're listening to this show, you certainly mean business when it comes to making impact. You know, I wrote the book, really, it was twofold. One, I saw that there was a need. And two, I'm passionate about the subject because I'm a product of the very things that I wrote in the book. Yeah. Tim and Susan, what we know is quiet quitting is costing the global economy nearly $9 trillion every single year. Yeah. This is a problem. In recent Gallup polls, we've seen that 65% of managers say that they agree that they give meaningful feedback. But when their subordinates were also surveyed, only 21% of them said that they agreed that they even got meaningful feedback in the last 7 days. I spent nearly 25 years in a Fortune 500 space, and my last assignment was a senior leadership role. And we did succession planning every year, and we did the 16-box grids and who's promotable and who is not. Well, when I left the company and I began working on content, I went back into all of those notes to find out what was holding leaders back from making impact and being promotable. I narrowed it down to two things. One was a lack of emotional intelligence, and two was a lack of accountability or firm feedback. I felt like emotional intelligence was talked about quite a bit, but I felt like this subject was a little more elusive. And so I dug in and I started researching the subject. And then I drew from my own leadership and follower experiences to bring this book and this content to the world to serve leaders to make bigger impact.
Good.
Man, it's so good. I work with a lot of clients, and feedback is probably one of the biggest areas we sit a lot of time on. So I want to talk a little bit about feedback. You know, there are many, I think we think of feedback as always a negative thing, right? What did I do wrong? But what are some suggestions you have for leaders out there when they are creating an environment to deliver not just negative, but effective feedback? What are some of your suggestions?
Well, yeah, let's to talk about the first point of what you said is sometimes it's always viewed as negative. Yeah. That's really dependent upon the relationship and if we've earned the right to give the feedback. And this will resonate with everybody listening. If I were to ask everybody listening to think about your Mount Rushmore of leaders, these are 4 people that have made the biggest impact on your life. Matter of fact, you would say that if it wasn't for these 4 people, I wouldn't even be who I am today. Now, let me ask a question about these 4 people. Were they tough on you? And the answer is always yes.
Yeah.
But then the follow-up question is, but did you know that they cared?
Yeah.
And the answer is always yes. And so what we know is that feedback doesn't have to feel off. If it does, this is screaming opportunity for us that we have to earn the right. You see, those Mount Rushmore, those 4 people that we've identified as the biggest impact in our lives, these weren't just bosses we reported to. Yeah. These were leaders that we didn't want to let down. That
Yeah.
hits a lot different, and it's based off of deposit, understanding why success is important to people, understanding their skill sets. And as it relates to the generations, not to create biases, but we have to have an understanding of who people are so that we can lead them where they are. We
Yes.
can give the hardest feedback known to man if we've earned the right. And by the way, if you think back to your own journey, wasn't it
Mhm.
the hardest feedback that made the biggest impacts on how you grew as a
Absolutely.
person?
No doubt.
It
Yeah.
probably was.
Yeah. No
So,
doubt about it. So, Jeff, I'd like to press in now a little bit on consistency. I think most companies do a pretty good job onboarding and being honest and real at the onboarding process. But let's talk about the journey in, and specifically, I'd like you to zero in on perhaps that young team member that might be a little fragile. Maybe they're just worried they're not going to make it, or you're going to fire me, or whatever. And I'm not suggesting, listeners, that every Gen Zer is fragile, but the data shows they've come in a little bit more fragile. They might be 22 and just believe that what mama told them, they're awesome for putting the spoon in the dishwasher, was really true, and now this boss is the first person that's being honest with them. Even the professor at college maybe wasn't completely honest. These are customers that I have in my classroom. So I'm gonna shut up and let you talk. Talk about a little bit about that fragile employee and how you be consistent in really building them up through both hard and even sometimes harsh feedback.
Well, it's a great question. And the framework that I talk about in the book, there's something that has to come before giving feedback, and that's setting an expectation.
Okay.
If you think about an expectation that we all have, it's a speed limit sign, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
On our way to the office today, we saw six different ones. They all said something different. Is it because they're setting us up to fail on the roadway? No. They have different
Yeah.
expectations based off of the environment. Here's the thing, and our aggressive leaders are like, yeah, see, I told you so. Tell them how it is. Tell them what to do,
Yeah.
right? Setting expectations is the first piece for sure. But here's the thing with expectations, we have to make sure that they're fair, first off. We can't just be asking people to run a 4-minute mile because that's what the team needs. They have to be fair, they have to be understood. The team has to be trained adequately to meet or exceed that expectation. And here's the big one, especially when it comes to Gen Z.
Yeah.
They have to understand why the expectation is good for them.
Yeah.
Hey, big news flash. Nobody cares about the balance sheet as much as us.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about Gen Z,
That's
we
true.
know they want to collaborate.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
want to be involved, and they need to understand this isn't, hey, your thank you comes by way of a paycheck on Friday. We need collaboration. We need to pull them in. Yes, have expectations, but pull them into the why behind it and why it's good for them.
That's good.
which which goes back to what you were saying. It's all about earning that right, having that relationship with them. And Tim, we talk about this all the time, that relationships are the foundation to leadership. You can't lead people if they don't respect you. They don't want to go along with you. You get a level one. You're a level one leader. There's a lot of different types of people on our teams. A lot of different. There's personality styles. There's age differences. There's skill levels. How does a leader decide what's the best effective feedback for that group or that type of person?
Yeah, it is. I think you can create some healthy bias. Tim, you do a great job helping us with this. We're not, and you just mentioned it. I'm not saying every Gen Z is fragile, right?
Yeah.
But we do know that there are norms for that for every generation. We
Yeah.
should learn those. And Tim, you've done a great job educating us. But then we have to go another layer down. And this comes by way of time. I highly recommend one-on-one debriefs to every employee in the company, to every person on the team. And when I go into companies, it's usually because there's something wrong, high turnover, low
Yeah.
results.
Mhm.
One of my 5 diagnostic questions is everybody in the company getting a one-on-one debrief? Leadership impact is spelled this way. It's spelled TIME.
Yeah.
We need to reproduce ourselves in other people. But here's the thing, there are multiple kinds of feedback. This is not a one size fits all, right? And in the book, I talk about 3 specifically. I talk about directive, I talk about collaborative, and I talk about supportive. Look, Gen Z, if I'm creating bias, they need collaborative feedback. They value dialogue. They value inclusion.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way conversation. It engages them more than this top-down critique
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
maybe a boomer leader enjoys, because that's
Yes.
how they were raised up
Yeah.
in the company, right? But it also fits their desire for growth and coaching. Now, look, guess what? You might have a baby boomer on the team as well. They prefer this formal, structured feedback that's delivered maybe in a more private setting.
Yeah.
They value respect for hierarchy and clarity, so they kind of enjoy this environment. Uh, and then you could go down the list, of course. Gen X, they appreciate straightforward, no nonsense feedback.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want independence and efficiency. So there's not a one size fits all. The key is to know that there's multiple feedback tools in that tool belt so
Yeah.
that I can hit the bullseye more than I don't.
What if your book had the expert backing it deserves? Join best-selling author Tim Elmore and a team of publishing pros for their next book in a weekend event, happening February 27th through March 1st, 2026, in Alpharetta, Georgia. You'll get expert coaching, insider tools, access to publishers and editors, and a shot to pitch your book. One participant will even land a book deal with Maxwell Leadership Publishing. Apply now at abookinAweekend.com. Your story is worth it.
Jeff, I'm actually thinking about the research that I did on the four major generations that are at work: boomers, Xers, millennials, and Gen Z. And the norms, you're actually right, are different. So the boomers got used to an annual review, so we might not talk about anything for a whole year. Full documentation in print, lay it out to me, that sort of thing. Now, we all know we need more than an annual review, but that was what I got used to. In fact, with John Maxwell, we just sit down one time a year. Xers, it was be honest, share all the pros and cons. Gen X, I think both of you are Xers, is very, very pragmatic. Be honest, keep it real, that sort of thing. Millennials, we started getting to, it needs to be more frequent, and I need affirmation. I'm not insulting them. I'm just saying, well, I remember when millennials first arrived on the scene 15 or 20 years ago, there were some companies in Atlanta. Susan, I never told you this. They were hiring praise consultants.
Wow.
Because they could not, out of their HR department, keep enough affirming leaders. So they were making their way. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous to anybody over 45, but that was the need. For Gen Z, the last data I just read, Jeff, you'll be amused by this. Gen Z is feeling like, I want daily check-ins, and if I don't hear from my boss, I assume something's wrong.
Wow.
And
Yeah, and for a boomer, that would drive them nuts.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So it's just good. It's what you just said. Read them before you lead them. You got to know who's in front of you.
Can I tell a story on this
Yeah.
that I think resonates certainly with me? There's a personal side as to why I wrote the book.
Yeah.
But before I tell this story, regardless of generation, everyone wants clarity.
Yes.
Everyone wants respect, and everybody wants fairness. The nuance, it lies in how are we delivering this feedback, and how is it going to resonate with the person that's in front of us? Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing, leadership is a moving target. The person that you're leading this morning might need collaborative feedback, but by the end of the week, they need supportive. And I was that person once. I grew up in gross poverty. I go through the military. I land at this blue collar job. I get promoted into sales from a blue collar. And I realized that, man, this sales thing takes a lot of work. And I wasn't really that good at it. But I had a sales manager. His name is Sean. And this guy would pull me into the conference room, and he would role play with me and teach me how to overcome objections. Mm-hmm. He would go on sales calls, sitting shotgun in the car. He would actually take some sales calls and let me watch the master at work. And he would give me feedback after these. He was tough on me, certainly. But man, the guy was making deposits. One day, he actually took me to a Joseph A. Bank and taught me how to dress as a white collar professional, took
Wow.
me into the men's room and taught me how
Yeah.
to tie a Windsor knot. I didn't know any of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, check this out. All these deposits are being made. One day, I get a call from my dad that I need to get to the hospital. Mom's not doing well at all. And I go to the hospital, and Dad was right. This day, it was going to be different than any other day. And it was going to be this day that I would hold my mom for the last time.
Wow.
And she passed at the age of 47 years old. I went into the darkest place. I mean, a dark place, a poor attitude, depression. And I didn't care about sales anymore. I didn't care about a career.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Sean pulls me into the office one day and says, enough's enough. I'm heartbroken about your mom, but I'm not going to let you waste an opportunity.
Yeah.
You can have the rest of the day off. And tomorrow, I want you to come in and decide, are you going to be a part of my team and be the person I know you can be? Or am I going to have to remove you from this team?
Wow.
Susan and Tim, let me tell you something. With everything in me, I just wanted to walk out the door and tell this guy, don't tell me, the grave dirt is still
Yeah.
fresh on my mom's grave.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this is a guy that I knew cared. I think about my life since that moment and how my life has radically changed
Yeah.
and the success that I've had. I look back and wonder if it wasn't for Sean and in that moment and earning the right to give the tough feedback,
Yeah.
would I be who I am today? That's the opportunity we have with firm feedback.
I love that, Jeff. That's such a great picture of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I think when I hear that, what I hear is that Sean was a mentor for you. Sean, and if there's the managers and leaders out there listening right now, need to think about how do I be that Sean to the people on my team, whether it's through collaborative or supportive feedback. And Jeff, you mentioned, I love your collaborative feedback because it's about building bridges, not walls, which is all about our podcast. How do we create that feedback culture? This is one of the things when I'm working with teams, when I'm doing leadership or we're going in feedback, I really like to talk about feedback culture. What is a culture of feedback? Not just an event, but the culture of it. So what are some suggestions for leaders out there? Because one size doesn't fit all. So how do you suggest leaders develop that culture?
Yeah, leaders that go through our workshop will always say, Jeff, I'm mopping what you're spilling. I believe in what you're saying, but I haven't been doing this well.
Yeah.
How do I go back to my team and build this culture that is non-existent? And the short answer is this: you have to fall on the sword, and you have to get in front of the entire team and say, I've been letting you down,
Yeah.
and you deserve better from me. So you can count on me moving forward to give you feedback. Now, take it down another level. Incorporate those one-on-ones and ask questions. Ask questions about feedback. Ask questions about why is success important to you. And look, go to jeffhancher.com, get my free leadership questions. This will get you started in these one-on-ones. But Tim, you and I are friends, so maybe we can role play.
Okay.
I'm now in this one-on-one conversation with Tim, and let's just paint a scenario that Tim and I are going to go to a trade show in Nashville. We're going to have a booth there talking about how to lead the generations. And I close the meeting by saying this to Tim. I say, Tim, I know how important it is now after we've met about this, that your first impression, we're going to have the best marketing. We're going to be polished. Tim, let me ask you this. If we're walking into that conference center in Nashville and I happen to smell some bad breath, would you want me to let you know?
I would. Yeah. Because I know I'm going to be with some people that don't know me and don't care. And I want to make a good first impression.
And you know what, Tim? I know that about you. And so, you know what? You have my full commitment that if that were to happen, you can count on me to let you know, because I want you to know I always want you to be at your best. Here we are walking 2 weeks later into the conference center, and I look over at Tim and I say, Tim, you remember a couple weeks ago, you asked me to let you know. Well, today I think you've had an extra coffee too much and your breath has some type of an odor. And Tim, I hand you a mint and you take it. The first words that you respond to me after taking the mint is what?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now check this out, listener. I'm in the convenience store line and to buy a coffee, and some guy's behind me that I've never met before in my life, and I smell an odor of his breath, and I turn around and I say, sir, I just wanted to let you know that your breath stinks. Now, this guy might smack me, punch my nose, tell me who am I to tell me about my breath.
Yeah.
Here's the amazing dynamic here. The data is the same. The
Yeah.
data is the exact same that it was with Tim to the guy I just met in the convenience store. Here's the difference. I earned the right.
Yeah.
So to circle back to the original question, Susan, we have to find out in one-on-one meaningful connection. And if you haven't been doing it right, it's not too late. It's never too late to be a great leader. You can restart. This may cause some change management opportunity for sure, but we owe it to people to lead them well. And that means we have to give feedback, and we do this through meaningful relationship.
Yeah.
It's so good. Listeners have to hear that because I hear it all the time in the field. Well, I don't have time, or, I don't. It's the biggest thing I hear. I don't have time. One of the things that I will tell the people I work with and I coach is I put a coin in your pocket, right? Maybe three, and put it in your left pocket. Give positive feedback. Find three things that it forces them to go right. Go find positive things and move the coin over. They're not allowed to go home until all those coins are moved over to their other pocket, forcing them to find the good in what people are doing to create some of that positive culture.
Yeah. Jeff, I just need to say before we sign off, this is so helpful and so practical. And I love what you brought up about even reading. Do they need collaborative, supportive, directive? You got to read them before you lead them. But listeners hearing Jeff Hancher today, you need to get this book. Yeah. Firm Feedback. It is superb. Jeff, you are part of our book in a weekend experience. You didn't let us down, man. You wrote this book and it soared to Amazon bestseller, USA Today bestseller. It's just such a relevant topic, and you did such a great job writing it. Thank you, thank you, thank you for this gift you've been.
My pleasure, and thank you to you and Sangram and everybody that supported the book with a book in the weekend. And of course, Maxwell Publishing has just been a tremendous resource. By the way, I need to let the listener know, Tim's breath is so minty fresh at all times. I mean, it is on point at all times.
Wondered. Yeah, that's right.
I love it. Now, if you're a listener out there and you're thinking, hey, I need some of this in my organization, I need to learn about this, visit us at maxwellleadership.com/generations at work. We'll also put a link in the show notes to jeffhancher.com for those free leadership questions. But maybe you're thinking, hey, I need some leadership training. I need to be a better leader, not just manager. Visit us. Let us know. Let us hear from you. This is what we do all the time. We go into organizations and we help them build and raise their leadership lid. And so if we can be helpful for you, we'd love to. We've also got a plethora of free resources for you at maxwellleadership.com/generations at work. And so visit us there. Let us hear from you. Let us hear what you're struggling with too. Tim, you want to close us out today?
Yeah, I'd love to. Jeff, I just cherish you as a friend. I remember when we first met over lunch, you came down and we spent some time together. And I just realized what a gift you are, what you were and what you are. And you're not done writing books, but thank you for this helpful conversation today. I just think we, even if we're great people, shy away from anything that's just hard relationally. And it requires emotional intelligence. You just said that. So thanks for nudging us forward in this and to be strong enough to have the hard conversations that we need to have. It's been great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff. See you soon.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.